Big welcome back to our Connect groups here at Canvas for 2025. One of the great keys for us as a local church is to really embrace this idea that while it's critical that we're able to gather together on a Sunday and worship together, connect around the services, pray, and receive a teaching from the Word of God, we have a high value here at Canvas of the idea that faith is meant to be processed. It's meant to be unpacked on the journey. And I want to encourage you, for each and every one of us that's committed to doing life in a Connect group, this really matters. If you're engaging with this teaching online and you're not yet in a Connect group here at Canvas, please don't hesitate to email us at hello@canvaschurch.com.au. But for those of us that have started back this week with our Connect groups, this year we're going to be looking at a book of the Bible each and every term. But my hope is as we commit to doing this as a church, while we're only going to be able to get through 4 books in the Bible in detail together, I just love the idea of boosting our biblical literacy, of giving opportunity for us to go through whole chapters at a time and wrestle with what God's saying to us now. But I do want to just preface this by saying, when engaging with the Bible, it's best to understand that there is a context, that these letters, these books were written in to a people at a place and time that helps, if we understand that, to process and then allow God to speak to us in the here and now about what God's saying to us as we live out the faith that was once and all delivered to the saints. And so this term, as a Connect group, we're going through 1 John together. And I'm so excited in the opportunity for us to process 1 John as a church, because I believe that 1 John, for me, highlights some of the things that we can easily battle against and face resistance towards in our culture that we are called to live, breathe, and minister to today. And so if you've not had a chance to unpack 1 John yet, just some quick thoughts and snippets before I go into and highlight for the first chapter. 1 John is captured in the scriptures as one of 3 mini letters, very short letters, most likely written by the Apostle John. And I say most likely because most Bible scholars would agree it was written by the Apostle John, who was somebody who was called by Jesus to leave the employ of his father as a fisherman and walk, serve, and minister alongside Jesus as Jesus was led through his earthly ministry. There is some conjecture that it could have been written by a man called John the Elder, who was a key later leader in the life of the local church. But I would believe in myself, in my understanding of reading this book, that it was actually written by the Apostle John himself. And it's important because the Apostle John wrote the Gospel of John, which is a beautiful unpacking on the heart of God expressed in Jesus. And then John, I believe, wrote 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, and the book of Revelation. And you get a great snippet through the life of this great minister of what it means to love God and to live for him. One of the key things that jumps out for me in 1 John chapter 1 is captured in the verse 5, where John writes, "This is the message we have heard from him and declared to you." Just previous to that, you'll see that John starts this letter by unpacking the fact that he has been an eyewitness to God appearing in flesh in Jesus. And because he's been an eyewitness and he's interacted and he's connected and he's engaged with Jesus directly, he is empowered to pass on what he has received in the things of God. See, it matters that we follow a faith that didn't come to us outside of the people who directly encountered Jesus for themselves. We actually follow a faith that has been passed on to us. And the beautiful thing is that it is the intention for God that we follow on from the examples that have been given to us so that we can live out those examples for ourselves. And so in verse 5 again, he says, "This is the message we've heard from him and declare to you." It's one thing to hear it, it's another thing to declare it. We're called not just to hear, we're called to put into practice what we believe. And he goes on to say, God is light and there is absolutely no darkness in him. You'll see that one of the key things that John is unpacking in his writings is this idea of we live in a world that is saturated in darkness. I think we can easily recognize that because we are surrounded with brokenness. Many of us have come out of brokenness or are journeying through brokenness. And this idea of darkness is this thought that whatever is kept dark is kept hidden, held back. But the moment you introduce light to darkness, darkness has to flee. And it's amazing that you could be in the darkest space and just have the littlest light introduced, and immediately there's a change to that environment. So too with our lives. For many of us, we can easily recognize we've come out of darkness, we've lived in darkness. But the moment you begin to follow Jesus for yourself, you are introduced to the source of light. And as that light is expressed in who we are, we're led out of darkness ourselves. We're not called to live our lives in hiddenness, trying to hide ourselves from God as if we can cover ourselves. We're called to live in a sense of being exposed. Can I just say to you, one of the great things in following Jesus is you can safely be exposed to him because he's not in this to destroy you. He's in this to reveal who he is to you so that you can know him and be put back together by his grace. So John goes on to write in verse 6, if we say we have fellowship with him, can I just say that's one of the most important things here? We champion the idea that we get to live the journey together. That is only possible as we actually have fellowship with God. We're actually called to connect with God, to encounter God, to experience God, not just to know about him, but to live with him. If we have fellowship with him and yet we walk in darkness, we are lying and not practicing the truth. Boy, that seems like a strict or harsh thing to say. What is John conveying to us today? First off, I'd say to us, we all have a choice on how we live. But as we choose to live a life in pursuit of the things of God, we have the choice to walk with him in it, in all the ups and the downs. And as we do it, we're actually called to put into practice truth. Can I say this to you as clear as I can for our first Connect session back? We are called as a people to practice what we believe. Can I encourage you, God would not call you into anything that he would not empower you in by his grace. And so as we live this out, can we see that a Christian is not somebody who just attends a church? A Christian is somebody who takes Jesus at his word and wrestles with the idea of, God, help me to live this out. We're called to put into practice what we believe and what we've received. And so can I encourage you as you have the opportunity to go through the study guide together and discuss this chapter, call out what jumps out to you, but can you wrestle with it from the point of view, how is God calling you to practice the truth? And what does that look like for you today? God bless you on the journey.